What if Santa was real? Like, really? What if he was real, and what if he could deliver you presents? What would he need to do to deliver your presents? Where would he live? What are the logistics of him getting those presents to you? Today, we're going to be exploring the science needed for Santa Claus to be an actual real person. So, the first question I had in mind about Santa would be, where does he actually live? We know he can't live exactly at the North Pole because the North Pole is quite literally just freezing water and icebergs. So Santa would have to either live on a melting iceberg or just live underwater. So I think it's more feasible that he lives somewhere closer to the North Pole, but not quite there. Like maybe at the top of Greenland somewhere, or maybe in Canada. I think my best bet would be him living in the Queen Elizabeth Islands, because those islands are mostly uninhabited and Santa could be living there without many people knowing. So we got that figured out now. Now the next thing we need to figure out is how could he make all of those presents for all the children in the world. So with the amount of space he is working with on the Queen Elizabeth Islands, which is 161,800 square miles, I think he has enough space to put factories to produce presents. Now there are 2.4 billion children in the world, and if every single one of them was given one present from Santa Claus, then that makes 2.4 billion presents. So yeah, he has to produce 2.4 billion presents in 1 year using 161,800 square miles of space. That is if he has all of that space to himself. My calculations say he would only need around 4.4 square miles out of the 161,800 square miles of space available, just for manufacturing and storage. And he would need around 8 million employees, so he would probably need elves, and assuming if the elves don't live amongst humans, they would need to live in the 161,800 square miles of space, which seems comfortable for elves since they actually are smaller than humans in most cases, so that's no problem. Now there's only one question about the logistics. How is Santa going to get all of those resources needed for the presents? Now there's really only one answer. That would be him buying resources off of countries, or him having his elves buy the resources for him. But how is he going to get that money? Well, maybe Santa started his own company in secret. Maybe he told the parents to buy presents off of him. He will become a billionaire quickly. With those billions of dollars, he can now buy those resources he needs for his elf factories. So now that's taken care of. Now that we have the manufacturing logistics solved, we can now move on to how he's going to carry all of those presents on his sleigh. And guys, this is going to get a little complicated, so bear with me. Now, I'm no genius, but without magic, him delivering 2.4 billion presents is going to be challenging, because first off, how are you going to carry 2.4 billion presents? That has to be billions of pounds of weight. It's going to take space. The most Santa could fit in his sleigh could be like 500, if his sleigh is normal sized, of course. But that may need to change. Also, we are not going to have Santa have his elves deliver the presents, because I feel like that kind of defeats the purpose. It should be Santa delivering all the presents, no one else. But if things get too complicated, he might have to resort to different measures. So we need to figure out how big his vehicle is going to be to deliver those presents. And we are going to assume that the presents that half the presents are a pound and the other halves are 2 pounds, making a combined weight of 3.6 billion pounds of presents. So we need to figure out how big of a vehicle we would need and what kind of vehicle we could use. And the most efficient vehicle we could use would be an airplane of sorts, or some sort of ship. Now the crazy part about this is Santa would need a vehicle that is 3.6 times bigger in storage capacity than the largest cargo ship ever built. So let's say Santa has that vehicle and it's in the air. Now, how fast is he going to need to travel, and how much energy and watts is he going to need to travel in that vehicle? So during my research, I found out that Santa would need to fly at speeds around 3 to 6.6 million miles an hour to get around to delivering presents to every child in the world. Now, the energy to propel a vehicle that is 3.6 times larger than the largest cargo ship ever made, we would need around 10 to the 21 power of joules. We would need 10 to the 21 power of joules of energy. That is the amount of energy that the sun outputs onto the entire world for 2 seconds, which is an immense amount of energy. Now, my research has gotten very complicated online, looking for a solution to contain this energy. I kept on stumbling into quantum physics being the solution, but I actually found something more feasible than that. It's called nuclear fusion. Now, the fuel for the reactor would be a deuterium-tritium fuel mixture, and he would need around 3,000 tons of that fuel for the 12-hour flight that he would take. And this 3,000 tons would only take up 0.2% of the ship's mass, so we are good. Now, with all of that energy, Santa can confidently fly his sleigh to every house. But wait, there's more. How is he going to use that energy to propel his ship? Well, I got a solution, folks. Santa will need to allow a second layer of plasma to flow around the core of his reactor. The fusion going on inside the reactor will then transfer its energy to the secondary plasma, and then the plasma can then be outputted through a magnetic nozzle, creating thrust. Now Santa can propel his 3.6 billion pound vehicle at 6 million miles an hour, in a vacuum of course. Now there's only 2 more problems, and then Santa can be possible. The first problem is air drag. When an object flies through the air at 6 million miles an hour and weighs 3.6 billion pounds, it will cause a disruption in the air. So the solution is Santa shooting lasers into the air to heat up the air, which causes the aircraft to fly better through the air, because the air will actually be less dense. Now there's just one more problem. How will Santa go to every house in the world? My calculations predict that Santa would need to visit around 25,000 houses every second. So his reflexes would need to be 6.5 million times faster than a normal human, which is not possible, obviously. And he needs to do this nonstop for 12 hours, so those cookies might actually help him. But also, those reflexes are not possible because of G-force. So let's assume that this ship quickly propels those gifts using drones or capsules that can fly into the chimney, and then the drones bring back the cookies for him. After all, nobody knows if Santa went into their chimney or not, and they will assume due to the missing cookies and milk. So at this point, it's not cheating. Santa should only have to press a button every minute or so to deliver all those presents. After all of the research of this video, I have came to a conclusion. For Santa to be real, he is going to need to yield some insanely futuristic technology just to deliver those presents. Everything else, including the manufacturing of the toys and the workers, are very feasible with his land, but the logistics of getting those presents to every child is nearly impossible with just a reindeer and sleigh. There you go, guys. That is what Santa would look like if he was to exist in real life. He would likely be a billionaire with a lot of technology, delivering presents to every child in the world with his advanced fusion-powered aircraft. That's going to be it for today's video. This was my first ever essay type video. I hope I did good, and have a Merry Christmas, folks, and a Happy New Year. And remember that Santa is an insane individual.